Ja, PD3. It is soon. In about 3 months is the time for PD3. So I'm gonna help you get ready for that. Now, the first thing that's very important is that you understand what the topics are. You don't know exactly what topic you will have to talk about or write about, but here are basically the options. Something about welfare, work-life balance, immigration, integration, health and lifestyle, democracy and politics, and this one, and also this one. Alright? So it's to prepare you so you know what to expect, and so you're not blindsided. Alright? That's the thing today. So there's reading, but there's also writing. When you're writing, there are different kinds of things, different categories and approaches. Today I have written an opinion piece, and I have it right here, and we're gonna read that, and then we're gonna pick it apart, right? So you can see some of the different phrases and words that will get you more points for this exam. Okay, cool. So we have it here, and I put the English translation because I want you to focus on the fancy words, not on the translation. So, let's see. Oh yeah, I should tell you very quickly. It is about, skal vi indføre en 4 dages arbejdsuge? Should we have or implement a 4-day work week? Sort of pros and cons, or why it's good, why it's bad, and yada yada. So that is the topic. Okay. So let's see. Som jeg ser det, vil der bestemt være visse fordele ved at indføre en 4 dages arbejdsuge. Dermed ikke sagt, at sådan en model vil være perfekt, og at der ikke vil opstå nye udfordringer. Men når man tænker over, hvor mange der går ned med stress i det samfund, som vi har lige nu, så burde det være åbenlyst for enhver, selvom det måske kan lyde lidt arrogant og prædikende, at fordelene ved et nyt system vil opveje ulemperne. Det handler ikke om, at folk skal have masser af tid til at lave ingenting. Nogle vil sige, man skal ikke belønne dovenskab, og det er egentlig også en fair pointe. Dog vil jeg argumentere for, at det ikke handler om dovenskab. Nej, det handler om at respektere, at folk også har andre ting i deres liv, og at de er lige så vigtige, selvom de måske ikke er produktive. Når de bare slapper af derhjemme, eller er sammen med venner eller familie. Blot fordi noget ikke kan måles eller vejes, betyder det ikke, at det ikke har værdi for den enkelte. Og man skal også huske på, at hvis ens medarbejdere er gladere og mere tilfredse, så vil de højst sandsynligt også yde en større indsats på arbejdet og være mere til stede. Fordi de ikke bærer på den byrde, som stress, især kronisk stress, kan være. Jeg vil argumentere for, at man i det omfang, det er muligt, altid skal forsøge at se tingene i et større perspektiv. Det handler ikke om at være doven, bare fordi det føles godt, eller at være produktiv, fordi det lyder godt. Det handler om at kigge på virkeligheden, som den er, og så stille sig selv spørgsmålet: hvad er det, som det nuværende samfund har brug for. Og hvis du spørger mig, så er jeg overbevist om, at en 4 dages arbejdsuge er en af de ting, som kan transformere samfundet på en hidtil uset måde. Nogle frygter muligvis, at vi vil blive mindre produktive. Men ud fra de betragtninger, som jeg har gjort mig gennem mange år, virker det sandsynligt, at vi faktisk vil blive mere produktive. Derfor er det min konklusion, at vi gør klogt i at nedsætte en kommission, der tager denne idé seriøst, så vi kan udvikle en plan, der fungerer i praksis, og ikke bare lyder som en interessant teori. Okay, so that is the piece itself. This is level C1. This is where stuff is getting advanced, right? So if you're about to take that exam, PD3, this is the kind of stuff you might need to say. Maybe not this specific topic, but the phrasing, the way that I talk about it, is pretty much how you're going to be talking about another topic. So now here I put it through the app, right? Got a grade, and it's always going to suggest you some ways to improve, because even though something is correct, you can still make it more formal, or so it fits the other sentences better. Because we're at a high level now, right? 12 is the max grade. Super. So what I did here was I took the text, right? I split it into two, and then I put it here in this other app, Dansk Mister, Danish Master. We're gonna look at these keywords one by one. Well, not one by one, some are more important than others. Okay, so if you see this one, indføre. Indføre means to introduce or implement. And this is a very good word if you're talking about something with the law, a system, or rules, the way that something is working. You want to create some kind of change, and you want to talk about it in a more serious, structured way. Then indføre is what you would use. Yeah. Indføre en lov. Right? Indføre en lov is the example that you have here. Yeah, you can see that. Could also say prædikende. We can skip that. That's basically being preachy. Åbenlyst, obvious. That's a good one. Right? Well, this is clear. Anybody can see. Det er åbenlyst. It's obvious. Byrde. Now, byrde is burden, and it's a very good word. If you're talking about something in society, something that's like a problem or an issue for some people, you can say, men det er en byrde, eller det er ikke en byrde. It is not a burden. So that is another very useful word. Produktive. Productive. And so again, when you talk about something at the workplace or finances or anything like that, produktiv or produktive in the plural is also a very useful word. Opveje is very useful when you are talking about pros and cons, because that's basically what it is. Like up is, up, UP, going up, and veje is to weigh, so it basically outweigh, or it balances out. Outweighs, balances out. Yeah, opveje. It's the pros against and the cons. And here the idea is that the pros outweigh the cons. They opvejer them. It outweighs them. So this is good if you have to make an argument. And there's a pretty high chance you'll have to do that at some point. Whoops, this is advanced stuff. Dovenskab, that is laziness. You might not see this exact word, but it is still good to remember, because doven, it's lazy, and skab is like a suffix, turning it into a noun. Yde is a very good one. Yde is, you often see it with indsats. Like yde in indsats, to contribute or perform. I would say make an effort. Provide. You're basically doing something. It's a very positive word in the sense that, well, of course, du yder en indsats. You're making an effort. So that one is very good. Tilfreds or tilfreds in the plural. You probably know this word. Satisfied or content. Right? Tilfreds. And visse, certain. Right? That you already have something in mind, like a certain thing or certain someone. visse. Now these are just the words. That's not so interesting compared to what comes next. Okay, so what can you do? Like, how can you take what you see in this video and make it your own? Look, if you want to argue something, if you have a point and you want to be very upfront about and say, this is an opinion, you can say, som jeg ser det, right? As I see it, the way I see it. Som jeg ser det, and then the thing that follows, right? And of course you have inversion after that. Som jeg ser det, super useful. Ved at plus infinitive. Now we're really getting into the grammar here. We're really seeing, okay, how can you put your own words in here? Ved at is like by doing this, or by doing that. Ved at. So you have to imagine your own verb in there. Man lærer meget ved at læse bøger. You learn a lot by reading books. Next one, even better. Dermed ikke sagt. So this is sort of a sophisticated way of saying, which is a transition saying that doesn't mean, or that is not to say. Like, you have one point, but that doesn't mean that it goes as far as proving something else. Like, jeg kan lide ham, dermed ikke sagt, at jeg er enig med ham. I like him, thereby not saying that I agree with him. And like, just because there's one thing, it doesn't necessarily lead to the next thing. Dermed ikke sagt. So it's very useful if you want to be a little bit fancy. Like, you're sitting there at the exam, or you're writing something, and you want to be able to say something that sounds a little more sophisticated, right? So this is a good one. Dermed ikke sagt. Inversion, okay, we talked about that before. We don't need to cover that again. Let's see. Det handler om. Yeah, that's a very good one. So det handler om, it could mean it's about, right? Meaning this is what matters, or this is what we're dealing with. Det handler om at være glad. It's about being happy. Like, that's the goal, that's the priority. Det handler om at være høflig. It's about being polite. Det handler om at være produktiv. About being productive. So det handler om means the goal is, the priority is, and like, this is the thing we're focused on. Det handler om. It creates a center for the topic. Det handler om. Right? Very useful. Selvom, of course, is even though, conjunction. Yeah, we talked about that before. This next one is also interesting. Blot fordi something betyder det ikke something. Now, why is this good? Well, because it's kind of similar to what you had before. Just because this is true, it doesn't mean that this other thing is true. Blot fordi det er dyrt, er det ikke godt. Just because it is expensive, it's not good. Kind of like, it doesn't mean that it's good. It's that you can separate two things. And if you use blot as a B-L-O-T, B-L-O-T, that makes it more formal. In a conversation, you would typically say bare, but because we're writing, or because we're trying to be a little more formal, you're going to say blot. Blot fordi something. Very nice. Højst sandsynligt, yeah, most likely. Right? This is also good. In a normal conversation, you might say nok, nok. Det er nok rigtigt. That's probably true. But højst sandsynligt is better if it's formal. Højst sandsynligt. And være til stede, yeah, that's fine, but not what we're going to focus on right now. Now, what else can you do? Because this app really does like a deep analysis, right? So again, som jeg ser det, vel. Okay, fine, det er ikke sagt. Aha. So it's kind of repeating what we had before. But how are you gonna know like how it works? You could say, let's take the second one. Dermed ikke sagt at. Okay, so here we're gonna get some feedback, right? Jeg elsker mine forældre. Let's see. Dermed ikke sagt, at jeg ikke siger nej til dem nogle gange. Okay, så jeg elsker mine forældre, I love my parents, thereby not saying, or I didn't say, that I don't say no to them sometimes. Like, you still have boundaries. Okay, so let's see. Then you're going to get the feedback immediately. And it's both going to catch grammar mistakes, but also little other things. Like if you say something that's unnatural, if you're missing a comma, it's going to let you know. So it's very useful in that regard. Right. You introduce something and then you say the thing, yeah, I said this, but that doesn't mean that. The next thing. All right, it's taking a moment. So let's see what else we have while we're waiting. Det handler ikke om X, men om Y. Okay? So it's not about this, but it's about that. Okay? Det handler ikke om der, men om der. Yeah. And this is useful because then you don't have to say det handler om twice. Maybe as a learner you feel tempted to over-explain or to say the whole thing more than you have to. Right? But you can make it easier for yourself. Det handler ikke om den her, men den anden. Right? Yeah, let's see here. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. This is fine, eh? Yeah. Okay, so this is also fine. See, it's not wrong, right? But you could also say en gang imellem. But the point is that I love my parents, but that doesn't mean that I don't say no to them on occasion. Like en gang imellem, occasionally. Very nice. Let's see. Når man tænker over. Yeah. So this means when you think about something, right? Then it leads to something else. And here we had that thing before. Fordelene ved X vil opveje ulemperne. Ikke? The benefits or the upside, the pros, ikke? In this thing will outweigh the cons, right? The disadvantages. Dog vil jeg argumentere for. So this is a good one. Because again, if you're at the exam and you have to like be, okay, you know, I have a point. I'm going to try to, you know, make it clear and say why that is. Dog is like however. Okay? You say something, but that's not the whole story. So therefore you say, dog vil jeg argumentere for. However, I would argue that something. Dog vil jeg argumentere for, at vi skal vente lidt. Okay? That we should wait a little bit. Yeah, that's how it is. Blot fordi, yeah, this we already had. Right? Let's take it here. Super. All right. Now you as a learner, the main thing for you is to make sure that it's correct, right? Now this one is super sensitive, this detector. So if it finds that there's another way of saying it, it's going to say that. But as a learner, just focus on the grammar. Let's see. Blot fordi hun er meget rig, betyder det ikke, at hun er gavmild. Right? It's very cool, because then it's going to suggest how you can say it in a different way. Let's see. Okay, blot fordi, yeah, exactly. Let's see. Okay, meget rig betyder det ikke. Right? So that's how it is, and it's brilliant. Even native speakers could learn this because we don't have like time always to like put a comma, but then it will tell you what to do. Right? So just because she's very rich, it doesn't mean that she's generous. So that's nice. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Selvom det måske kan lyde da, so even though it might sound like this, actually, right, like you're creating a contrast, because that is the thing about being advanced. It's not just saying this is this, like this and then adjective, this is what it is. No, it's about saying it might sound like this, but actually it's this other thing. Selvom det måske kan lyde sjovt, er det ikke en god idé at bade, når man har set en haj. Right? Now that is really crazy, but it's a good example. Selvom det måske kan lyde sjovt, er det ikke en god idé at bade, når man har set en haj. Even though it might sound fun, it's not a good idea to bathe, like on the beach, when you've seen a shark. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at that. Selvom det måske kan lyde. Right? So, it's very good to say that. Right? So it's perfect because blah blah blah. Right? It's very important that you get that. You get a little translation here. Super. Alright. Bære på en byrde. Yeah, so I already introduced burden before. And byrde is burden. That's nice. And we say at bære på. And to carry. Yeah, like to bear. It's a little similar to the English one. Like at bære på en byrde. And then of course we have at yde en indsats. But we already talked about that one. To make an effort. Super. Now let's see, was there anything else in this? Oh yeah, there's also this one. This is a really serious breakdown. Just because there's one way of saying it doesn't mean you cannot look at another way. Right? Now I said som jeg ser det. It's good, the way I see it, but you could also say efter min mening. Right? It basically means in my opinion. Like efter min mening, literally after my opinion. Like don't do a direct translation. Efter min mening, da. Ikke? Let's see, nogle plusser. Ikke? Fordele, yeah, it's good, it's fine. Ikke? Some pros, some advantages. Plusser is like, yeah, pluses. Ikke? Like some positives about this. Okay, det er et stort plus. That's a big plus. Right? So this is paraphrasing. Why have only one way when you can have more? Right? Okay, here we have an idiom. At lave ingenting, to do nothing. That's good. You could also say at dagen. Right? At dagen is very colloquial, just like being really lazy. Maybe don't write this in the assignment. Like if it's written, it's not that great. But if you're talking about something, do it, because when you know an idiom, if you can show that you know how to use it correctly, that shows you have a high level of Danish. Right? Okay, cool. Then we have går ned med stress. Literally like goes down with stress. And kind of like it makes you go down, makes you break down. It just, you're defeated by stress. But you could also say bliver ramt af stress. And you get hit or struck by stress. That sort of makes you a little more passive. And it's very, very common. If you're reading like news articles or something, you're gonna see this one. Blive ramt af stress. Gå ned med stress is also fine. But gå ned med is a little more focused on the process where you're totally overwhelmed. Right? But it's good stuff. Another idiom. So I said yde en større indsats, to make a better effort. You could also say give den en skalle. This is a very popular idiom. It's quite old. It's been around like always, as far as I can remember. Give den en skalle, to really knock it out the park, and to really show them what you're made of. Give den en skalle. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, pointen er ikke. That one is less interesting. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay, so just the last one here. Et godt argument. En fair point. Okay, yeah, you bring a fair point. You raise a fair point. So then you can say that. Et godt argument. Right? That is another way you can say it. So for all these things, there's always an alternative way to phrase it. And that is a big part of it. Right? Cool. So we looked at the vocabulary, the grammar, the sentence patterns, and the phrasing and the mood. Now what I'm going to do now is I'll take this second part. Let's see down here. Yep. I'm going to put it over here. And because there's so much to break down, we're going to split it in two. Let's just do this. Okay, cool. I was going to give it like 30 seconds or something. Give it a moment. In the meantime, we can play with this one. We got the sentence lab here. So you can just write any sentence and we get immediate feedback. Min kat er syg, og derfor overvejer jeg, om jeg skal ringe til dyrlægen. Let's keep it fairly short. Let's see. So my cat is sick, and therefore I'm considering if I should call the vet. Veterinarian. Now, what if I made a mistake? Jeg er så glad i dag, og derfor jeg danser. Yeah, it's an obvious mistake, but why not? Let's see. It's gonna tell us that something is wrong. Of course, it's supposed to be jeg er så glad i dag, og derfor danser jeg. Then it tells you in great detail why that is wrong. Beautiful. Alright, so I see this one has been analyzed. Super duper. Still is level C1. Argumentere, we already had that. Yeah, so argumentere is to argue a case. A little note for some of you. Now in English you can say, oh, we had an argument, like we had a fight, again, a relationship or something. In Danish, we don't use it for that. Argument is only when you're debating or discussing, like it's based on something logical, okay? The other word is skænderi. I can write it over here since we're not using this space right now. Skænderi, this word, right? Just move it a tiny bit. There you go, right? Very good. So argumentere is to argue a case in favor of something. Perspective, yeah, that's just perspective, eh? Not so much to say about that. Nuværende is of course current, and it's very logical because nu means now and værende means being, so now being the current thing. Det nuværende samfund, current society. And samfund is also a word you're gonna need a lot for these exams, because That's what it's about, right? Understanding the bigger stuff. Så nuværende, current, present. Hidtil uset. Yeah, this is a pretty advanced word. Hidtil is like until this point, like thus far, right? Uset is like unseen. It's never seen before. So yeah, hidtil. If you can use this, you're really gonna impress your teacher or whoever is like checking your Danish. This is very good stuff. Even some Danish people don't use it so much. So yeah, good to have. Kommission. So kommission is a good word. And if you read anything about politics, this is super, super useful because they always talk about this. It's like, we need to have a commission. Well, commission actually, what they mean is like a committee, like a task force, right? Like some people need to sit down and then agree on what the best approach is. So, kommission. Right? At nedsætte en kommission. We need to like put together this committee or this task force. Okay, they have omfang. Omfang is also a great word when you're talking about the more serious stuff because it means extent. Like, is like around, like something in a circle, and fang, well, fange means like to catch or capture. So it's everything sort of in that scope, right? Everything within that circle. That is what omfang is. Yeah, it's a little bit advanced, but it's super useful. Okay, doven, that's lazy. We don't talk about that so much. Overbevist, yeah, is convinced. And this one you can also use. Eh? Like, jeg er ikke overbevist. I'm not convinced. You are skeptical. Or you are convinced. Jamen, jeg er overbevist om. Ikke? I'm convinced that. Jeg er overbevist om at. I'm convinced that da. Ikke? The thing you believe in. Very nice. Betragtninger. Now this is also some very advanced stuff. Can be at least. So betragtninger here, of course, in the plural, is observations. Jeg gør mig nogle betragtninger. So I'm making some observations. Betragtninger. It comes from the verb at betragte. So observe or just look at. Like really like analyzing or trying to understand it. Betragtninger. Super. Teori, yeah, teori is theory. Not so much to say about that one. Okay, super duper. Now, quick look at the grammar and then the sentence patterns. Jeg kan se for. Ja, let's see. Det vi something there. Yeah, okay, so these are like pretty easy, but this one is good. Stille sig selv spørgsmålet. Reflexive verbs. Make sure that you always know when is that. Like sig. Stille sig selv. So you know what verb you're dealing with. Inversion after this. Okay, that is just inversion. I made like 10 videos about that already. You should know inversion at this point. Let's see. Passive, adjective, participle uses. Nah, not really. At gøre sig from subject, gøre klogt i. Yeah, okay, this one is not as interesting as the first one. Let's see here. Hvis du spørger mig, jeg er overbevist om. Yeah, this one is good. Hvis du spørger mig is basically if you ask me. Like, oh, you want my opinion? Well, this is what I think. So that's a really good one. Hvis du spørger mig, så verb subject. Hvis du spørger mig, så skal vi gøre slik dyrere. Yeah, something like that. Hvis du spørger mig, så skal vi gøre slik dyrere. If you ask me, then we should make candy more expensive. Yeah. It's important you have inversion here. Let's see what's that. Jeg er overbevist om. Oh yeah, the one from before. And grammatic correct. Super. Ud fra de betragtninger, som jeg har gjort mig. Because betragtning is, jeg gør mig en betragtning. I make myself an observation. Like not that I am an observation, but I'm making them on my own. Jeg gør mig en betragtning, eller betragtninger in the plural. Det virker sandsynligt. Yeah, so this is useful because of course you can also say det er sandsynligt, it is probable, or it is likely. But det virker means it seems or it appears, right? Which can sometimes soften it a little bit. Instead of saying this is how it is, you can be like, well, it looks like this. Right? So that's being a little more gentle. Det virker sandsynligt. It seems probable. Det virker. Ja. Vi gør klogt i at, and yes, just like the computer is saying right here, this is quite diplomatic. You don't talk like this to your friend. That would be weird. But if you're talking about something formal, you can use this phrase. Vi gør klogt i at yada yada. Like, we would be wise to do this. This is the wise course of action. Vi gør klogt i at something something. Infinitive. Alright. En navn, der fungerer i praksis. Yeah, so basically that. Ikke? Planer, idé, ikke? Teori. Yeah, fungerer i praksis. So that's kind of like the English, like that something that works in practice. Like in real life, not just theory. Fungerer. Yeah. And then we have omfang. But we already talked about omfang. So that one we don't need to talk about so much anymore. Okay, so let's look at the phrasing and the mood. What are some alternative ways of saying the same things? Jeg vil argumentere for. So yeah, it's fine. You can also say, jeg mener. I think or I believe. This is an opinion that I have. Jeg mener. And then follow whatever. Down here, I see. Jeg mener, at han er den mest inkompetente, I'll fix that in a second, whatever, inkompetente leder, vi nogensinde har haft. Right? Alright, let's see. Inkompetente. Jeg mener, at han er den mest inkompetente leder, vi nogensinde har haft. I believe that he's the most incompetent leader we have ever had. Like, so this is your opinion. Nogensinde har haft. Yeah, have ever had. Super. Så vidt muligt. Yeah, this is also very good. And it's another way of saying as much as possible. Or as far as possible. Så vidt muligt. Because vidt is kind of like the English word wide. Like W-I-D-E. So as wide as possible. Yeah, it's funny, like that. Så vidt muligt. I det omfang, det er muligt. Let's see here. So what I said was, kigge på virkeligheden, som den er. That's good. But you could also say, se virkeligheden i øjnene. Literally to face reality. Or look reality in the eyes. Face the facts. Don't dream. Don't just be speculating. Face reality as it is. Look it in its eyes. Se virkeligheden i øjnene. Again, you can impress them if you know stuff like this. Hvad er det, som det nuværende samfund har brug for? Hvad har samfundet egentlig brug for lige nu? It's just another way of saying it. Det nuværende samfund is fine, current society. Hvad har samfundet egentlig brug for lige nu? What does it need right now? Because society is always society, right? Det nuværende samfund, current society, og hvad har samfundet brug for lige nu, right now? It's essentially the same thing. Okay, down here, hvis du spørger mig efter min mening, yeah, we already had that one. Jeg er overbevist om, jeg er helt sikker på. Yeah, this is also good. Jeg er overbevist om is a little more formal, but in many other contexts, you can definitely use this. Jeg er helt sikker på. I'm sure that something something. Jeg er helt sikker på, what could you say? Jeg er helt sikker på, at du nok skal tjene mange... Nah, let's say something else. At du nok skal klare den. Yeah, let's say that. Jeg er helt sikker på, at du nok skal klare den. I am sure that you're gonna make it. You're gonna pull through, whatever the context. Right? Sikker på, ikke? I'm sure of something. Awesome. Der er nok nogen, der er bange for. Ja, og nogle, depending on a singular plural. Now, I said nogle frygter vis, ikke? Some might be fearing. Now, some would say that's dramatic, right? You could also say, de er bange for. They are afraid of a specific outcome. Der er nogen, der er bange for, at det sker. Some people are afraid that that will happen. Always remember that bange is afraid or scared. And frygte is the verb to fear, right? Which is a more dramatic way of saying it, admittedly. Then we have gør klogt i. Right? That's what I had before. Of course, to be wise. You could also just say burde. Burde is an easier way of saying it. If you want to flex your knowledge, you can say gør klogt i, because that's badass. But if you just want to make it easier for yourself, you can say something like burde, should, ought to do. Right? Yeah. Det burde du gøre. You should do that. Udvikle en plan. Lægge en plan. So udvikle en plan is like to devise a plan or to literally develop a plan. It's more formal, it's more fancy. You could also say at lægge en plan, to lay a plan, literally. It's very, very common in a more informal context to say that. Vi må lægge en plan. We gotta like make a plan in this thing. Let's see here. And then the last one is an idiom. I said på en hidtil uset måde, and it's good, but you could also say som aldrig før, like never before. You can say both, and you just have to be aware of the vibe that is sending. Yeah. More dramatic and common storytelling, enthusiastic speech. Eh? When you're at the high level, it's not necessarily about what's right and what's wrong. It's more you have to know what the mood is, what the atmosphere is you're trying to create. That becomes very, very important. So yeah, this was basically just something that I wrote earlier today. It's been like 10 minutes or something writing that, right? You can always make it better, and the app is always going to tell you, hey, you can make this improvement or that improvement. The main thing is that you can use some of these. Jeg mener, eller jeg er overbevist om, eller nuværende. These words, they are useful in so many different kinds of situations. In this context, in another context, and that is why I included them. Right? It doesn't have to be about this work-life balance topic. It could be something else. We go back here. Right? You could be writing different things. Could also be a formal email or a complaint letter. Right? It could be different kinds of things. So there's a lot, and you don't know exactly what you're gonna get when it is time for your exam. Therefore, it's good to be prepared. Right? Could also go back here to the reading part. We got some stuff. Could be about the welfare model. It's very, very common when you talk about Danish culture. Yeah. And then, of course, some questions. That is also something you should expect. That there will be questions to show that you have, remembered, understood, and retained the stuff that you're reading. Yeah, I'm gonna cover these in future videos. Now it's February 17th, so I guess it's about a little less than 3 months, right, before the first PD3 exam. Well, it's all in one day. And so I'm gonna make some more videos like this about these different topics, so you can go into that exam, feeling confident and assured that this is gonna be fine, because I did what I had to do. That's what it is. There are many different topics. It's about writing and it's also about reading. It's good to be prepared, and it's always good to do a breakdown. So that's how it is. Yeah, guys, thank you for that. Thank you for watching this, right? It's important stuff, and you're gonna do great. I believe in you. C1 is the high level stuff. Now let's have a little look. We got the live chat. Emike V2G saying thanks for such an important lesson. Yeah, thank you. And City Nuridaya 2651 saying come to the beat soon. That's how it is, right? Yeah. And as always, of course, remember the website, danishmastery.com. That is where you get a lot of stuff that you don't get on YouTube for free. And you get a lot of grammar breakdowns, you get some podcast episodes, a few ebooks. There are just many, many things. Also videos that are not available on YouTube for free. So many things to give you a better learning experience, having more fun, and also taking it more seriously at the same time. And I mean, that is the goal, right? That is what we all want. So yes, thank you very much. If you need to watch this again, then do it. Take your time and take a bunch of notes, because notes are just like, they're your friend, That's something that you want to do. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll be back soon. Take care.